I've never been much of a birthday person. I'm not the type to throw big parties or make a huge deal out of it. My close friends know this, so usually I celebrate quietly, either with family or just a few friends. But there was one birthday that changed my perspective entirely, and it started off innocently enough. It was a summer evening when I was 19. My birthday fell in July, so the days were long and warm. After having dinner with my family, I received a flurry of texts from 3 of my friends trying to make plans for the evening. We weren't planning to hit bars or clubs. We were underage and didn't have fake ID anyway. Instead, Jay, one of my friends, suggested we do something adventurous. Night off-roading in his Jeep. There was a huge state park about a half-hour away, with trails wide enough to drive on. Technically, driving there wasn't allowed, but after dark, the woods were usually empty. Jay had done it before and knew the trails well. Carl brought a joint, Joey brought a handle of vodka, and I wasn't partaking in the alcohol since Jay would be driving. The plan was simple. Drive out, find a trail deep enough to be alone, hotbox the Jeep, and celebrate my birthday quietly. Around 9 o'clock, just as darkness was beginning to fall, we headed to the park. The entrance to the park was partially blocked with cones, but since there was no night security, we carefully moved one cone aside and drove in. A narrow one-way road wound through dense woods, eventually opening up into a large parking lot surrounded by trees on 3 sides. With baseball fields and a playground on the 4th, Jay navigated with ease, steering toward the trails meant for walking but wide enough for a Jeep. Before entering, we made sure no police cars were around. Once on the trail, Jay turned on the Jeep's brights. The terrain was bumpy and narrow, forcing him to drive cautiously to avoid scraping the Jeep against trees and bushes. It was thrilling in a strange, adrenaline-filled way. When the trail opened up over small drops, the bumps made the ride feel like a roller coaster. After a while, Carl rolled the joint and we passed it around. At some point, Jay stopped the Jeep and turned off the headlights. We were in the middle of the woods, music playing quietly, vodka in hand, enjoying the secluded darkness. Then all of a sudden, we heard a strange high-pitched scream from outside. The music stopped. All of us froze. "What was that?" we said almost simultaneously. It sounded like a woman screaming. Jay quickly turned the headlights back on, but no one was in front of the Jeep. Still, we decided to move further down the trail to get out of that spot. We tried to laugh it off, convincing ourselves it was probably a fox. Carl lit another joint, and the rest of the night went on relatively uneventfully for a bit. At one point, my friends jokingly sang "Happy Birthday" loudly, lay. Eventually, I had to pee and stepped a few feet off the trail into the woods. That's when I heard footsteps nearby. My gut twisted. I quickly returned to the Jeep, telling the others I'd heard someone walking. Jay turned the headlights back on, and what we saw made all of our blood run cold. A woman, hood up, stood just 10 feet away on the side of the trail. We expected her to approach, but she just stared at us silently, then slowly backed into the woods until she disappeared. Carl, still sitting in the back, suddenly looked up, wide-eyed. Guys, we're surrounded." We all scanned the woods and realized he was right. At least 3 other people, all wearing hoodies despite the warm July night, were surrounding the Jeep, standing perfectly still and staring at us. Then a man appeared right behind the back windshield, illuminated by the red glow of the taillights. His face expressionless, eyes locked on us. "Get us out of here!" I screamed. Jay hit the gas and we tore down the trail, bouncing over rocks and tight turns. It felt like the escape would never end. Finally, we reached the paved road, relief washing over us, though the memory of those hooded figures stayed burned into our minds. We later reasoned that they might have been other young adults out in the woods, but that didn't explain the man at the back windshield or the synchronized, eerie stillness of everyone else, nor did it explain the strange scream we had heard earlier. That was the last time we attempted off-roading at night. Some experiences leave a mark you can't shake, and that night stayed with me for a long time. A few years later, I had another unsettling birthday experience. This one happened when I was nearly 12. It was my little sister's 5th birthday, and we were at a tea room that offered princess-themed parties. I wasn't interested in the activities, worried about what other kids might think, so I stayed in the hallway playing on my DS. That's when a woman approached me. "Hey, you're Gloria's kid." Right, you're Gloria's kid. Oh, she said. Gloria was my mom's name. I nodded. She introduced herself as Aunt Sarah, claiming I was probably too young to remember her. She complimented me on how much I had grown and asked about school. I gave the standard polite answers, thinking nothing of it. Then she said she had a large dollhouse for me and needed help carrying it from her car. She even offered me the first slice of cake as a reward if I helped her. Something in my gut tightened, but my naivety and trust in adults, especially women, made me agree. I followed her out the back door. The car wasn't parked and the engine was running. Sarah explained the man in the driver's seat was Uncle Dennis and urged me to hurry. The situation didn't feel right. Why hadn't Dennis helped her? Why was the car running? I refused to move. Sarah's tone changed. She became insistent, even angry. Angry! She tried to tug on my sleeve. I swatted her hand away and yelled. For a terrifying moment, I thought Dennis might step out of the car. Thankfully, my mom and aunt appeared, shouting my name. Sarah jumped into the car with Dennis, and they drove away. I ran inside to my mom and aunt, safe but shaken. The tea room staff immediately went into lockdown, gathering all the children in one room. The police were called, and I gave as many details as I could about Sarah and Dennis. We never heard from them again. I have no idea how Sarah knew my mother's name. I try not to dwell on what might have happened if I hadn't trusted my instincts. That experience taught me to always listen to my gut. Fast forward to my 21st birthday. By then, I wanted to celebrate big. My uncle had a stunning house on the water, complete with a massive backyard and pool, so he let me use it for a party while he was out of town. I invited all my friends, telling them to bring their own beer. The plan was simple. Backyard party only, no one inside the house except to use the bathroom. The party started at 8. I connected a music mix to my uncle's surround sound system and tried to keep track of the crowd. But soon, there were far more people than I expected. Almost all my friends brought extra people, and then strangers started walking in through the gates. Before long, there were easily more than 80 people in the backyard. The party was chaotic, neighbors complained, and eventually, the police showed up to shut it down. Most people left, leaving only a handful of us. By the end of the night, it was just me and my friend Rob by the pool. My uncle had explicitly said no one could stay over, but Rob was blackout drunk, so I let him crash on the couch. I went upstairs to my room, leaving the gates locked and thinking the night was over. But then I woke up nauseous, the result of mixing too many different types of alcohol. After vomiting, I walked to the balcony upstairs and saw movement in the dark foyer. A figure stood silently, unmoving, and I couldn't see any features. At first, I thought it might be a party guest, but then I heard footsteps from the kitchen. Panic set in. I called Rob's phone, hoping he was still asleep. A stranger answered, breathing heavily. My heart raced. I hung up and immediately dialed 911. As I whispered to the operator, the doorknob to my bedroom twisted, followed by a soft knock. The operator instructed me to stay quiet and not reveal I was on the phone. I waited in the room, terrified. The operator told me police were on their way, checking the front and back doors. Eventually, the officers entered through the back and secured the house. Rob woke up confused, and I explained what had happened. The police searched the house but found little missing, though later, my uncle realized his Cartier watch had been stolen. I never told my uncle the full extent of the chaos until he asked about the watch. He was understandably furious but didn't ask for reimbursement. After that, no more parties at his house for me. I can't blame him. That night had been a terrifying lesson about chaos, trust, and boundary. Looking back on all these birthdays, one thing is clear. No matter how prepared or cautious you think you are, life has a way of throwing you into unexpected, sometimes frightening situations. From the woods at night to strangers with sinister motives, to intruders at a party, I've learned that instincts, caution, and quick thinking are the best protection. Every birthday since, I've approached it with a little more wariness, but also a deeper appreciation for safety, friends who have your back, and the moments of calm when everything is actually okay.